Hello, I'm Rebecca of Pocketful of Posies, and today I'm making a Victorian Shirtwaist by Black Snail Patterns. My first step was to tape the pattern together since it's a PDF pattern, and then I laid it out, pinned it, and cut it, and I used cotton sheeting material that I had. I used the same material for my chemise that I made a few weeks back. I got all the pieces cut out, and I managed to use most of the white cotton that I had left after my chemise, and just some scraps left, maybe enough, I can't even think, maybe a fuchsia or something like that I might have enough left for. But so the sleeves were enormous. Well, all of the pieces are enormous, and since I am cutting out the largest size, I had to do some finagling of the fabric to get everything to fit. But it's done, it's all cut out. So now I'm gonna read the directions. I first turned the front openings in by 1 inch twice, creating button plackets, and those actually turned towards the right side of the fabric. I sewed the button plackets down with a top stitch as close to the edge as I could get. I did this, of course, on both sides of the front opening. I then marked the position of the folds on the front of the shirtwaist and pinned them down, and then ironed them in place. I then basted the folds on the neckline and shoulder. The next step in the instructions said to sew buttonholes at the markings on the back of the shirtwaist. There were 2 markings for buttonholes, and then to make a little drawstring casing. I decided not to do that. I decided to just make 2 eyelets, and so then I hand sewed those with a buttonhole stitch. And then use some twill tape to thread through. I didn't really think that the casing was totally necessary, so I did not do that. The next step was to pin the shoulder yoke piece to the front pieces of the shirtwaist. So I did that. I sewed them together with a 5/8 seam allowance, right sides together. And then I pinned the back piece to the shoulder yoke, right sides together. I sewed the back piece and the shoulder yoke together, again with a 5/8 seam allowance. I trimmed the seam allowance on the front pieces, and then I trimmed one side of the seam allowance on the back and pinned the opposite side, folded it over and pinned the opposite side down over the raw edges, and then felled that down. Now that wasn't in the instructions. It said to just top stitch it, but I did a little quick whip stitch just to kind of keep it in place before I top stitched. I decided to do the top stitching on the front and the back of the yoke by hand. You just as easily do it with the machine. I just was feeling hand sewy this day. Ooh, top stitches. On to the collar. I have no idea what I did. I didn't understand the instructions, and I did not notice that it stated plainly that the collar pieces ran narrow. So it ended up not fitting, and so then I just improvised. I took one of the collar stand pieces and sewed it to the neck edge, and then I turned that over. And then I sewed eyelet lace to that, so then I could turn the raw edge of the eyelet tape to the inside and encase the raw edges. I whip stitched that down between lessons one day. I next pinned the side seams together, wrong sides together, because I was doing French seams. I sewed them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I trimmed that to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then I turned it so the right sides were facing. And I pinned that together just to keep it neat, and then I sewed that, encasing the raw edges on the inside of the garment. So, all the way around, I think it will work. I might have to do something different with the collar, but on the whole, it's not too small. It's just a little small in the arm side. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit, and then the collar situation, because I do not understand collars. I don't know how they work. So that is definitely trial and error. But everything else seems pretty good. Then I turned and whip stitched the raw edges on the collar lace on the opening. On to buttonholes, the dreaded. My machine was not working properly for the buttonholes. Possibly it was my fault. I didn't have any tearaway stabilizer to put underneath it, which I think probably would have helped. But anyway, so 4 of the 8 buttonholes were fine and 4 were not. A giant mess. It didn't do the entire buttonhole. It would just do like half and then get stuck and start just like going over the same stitch over and over and over again. And yeah, I was mad. I was very upset about the buttonholes. So then I attempted to salvage them by hand, just trying to neaten them up and make them work. And in the end, they aren't pretty, but they are functional, and sometimes you just have to stop and not worry about such things. Okay, so after much struggling, I got the buttonholes and the done and the buttons on. Well, the buttons weren't a struggle, but the buttonholes were a gigantic struggle. My machine just decided not to do anything that I wanted it to. So now, checking the fit of this, I gave myself a little more room in the arm side, although I'm thinking I still might need more. These pleats, the ones on the side are just like, I just feel like I need that extra material. But I mean, maybe not. Maybe if I, if everything is pulled forward, then I guess I just need to iron these down again to make them behave. But this one doesn't seem to want to do what it's supposed to. So I'm considering undoing this, just this, the ones on the ends, and I'm thinking that's part of the issue. I think I still, the arm sides are okay. But I guess if I gave myself a little more room here, that would sit better. What I'm not sure of when I hem it, of course the collar's too small, so I couldn't put a button all the way at the top. So I just left it open. I think it looks fine. Still got this tie in the back, but I don't know. What I'm not sure of is when I hem it, do I hem it with these pleats in it? Because I feel like that's gonna possibly make it too snug across the bottom. But I'm not sure, so we'll see. So I just did some hand gathering of the top of the sleeves, both of them, during a Zoom call. And the next step is to cut the slits, which I did. And so on the right side, a strap with a width of 1 inch and a double length slit. Oh, I see. Like a placket, kind of. Okay. So I tried following the instructions and gave up because it just was not working. It wasn't coming out right. So I, decided to just do a narrow hem instead on the slits. Next, I pinned the sleeves into the arm size and then pulled on the gathering stitches, arranged the gathers, and pinned them all into place. Then I sewed the sleeves in, and for the first time ever, I think, I did not do one backwards. I actually did both of them correctly. First go. Small miracles, right? Okay, I've gotten the sleeves on. Now there is a cuff. However, there are no directions for the cuff. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that, but look at the poofy sleeves. Hercules helped me decide what to do about the cuffs. He's very, very helpful. Okay, I have gone rogue. There are no instructions for the cuffs. And so I have decided to sew this lace wrong sides together, and then I will flip it up and have a lace cuff. This is just gratuitous kitty footage. I sewed the lace cuffs and trimmed the seam allowance. So I think that these cuffs are going to work the way that I have put them on. I think that's gonna look pretty. Then I turned and whip stitched the edges of the cuffs down. So, out of tiredness and the fact that I only had 2 buttons left and I really needed 4, 2 on each cuff, I used snaps and then I just sewed the button on decoratively. And with that, we're pretty much done. I just need to iron, put the snaps on the second cuff, and then also the decorative button, and yeah, done. So I decided to take some photos in the 90-degree humid heat. Why? I don't know. I didn't wear a corset. It was too hot for that nonsense. And I also wanted to see how the shirtwaist would look if I wanted to wear it just as an everyday blouse rather than with the historical silhouette. So all in all, I'm decently pleased with the result of this shirtwaist. I do think the instructions could have been clearer. And I did have to improvise the cuffs and the collar as well. But that, of course, might be my own fault, not necessarily the pattern's fault. But I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that if you are inspired to make a Victorian shirtwaist, you do so. And thank you so much for watching. And if you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next time.